Welcome to the Retirement Wealth Podcast, where we help you navigate the journey of retirement with confidence and clarity.
It's great to be here, Emily. And today, we've got a really interesting topic that a lot of people are curious about.
Absolutely. We're diving into how to create monthly income after retirement without having to go back to work. It's a big concern for many folks, right?
Yeah, it really is. Many people worry about their finances once they stop working. And it's essential to have a solid plan in place.
Exactly. In this episode, we'll discuss different income sources, strategies to maximize your savings, and how to make your money work for you.
And we'll also touch on some common pitfalls to avoid, which can really help in ensuring your retirement funds last.
Plus, we'll explore the importance of budgeting and how to adjust your lifestyle to fit your new income.
Sounds like a lot of valuable information to cover.
For sure. So let's jump right in.
Great. One of the first things to consider when planning for monthly income in retirement is understanding your expenses. So, Emily, one of the big reasons why this topic of creating monthly income after retirement is so crucial right now is the shift in retirement timelines. More and more people are retiring earlier in their 60s or even in their late 50s, but they're also living longer. It's not uncommon to hear about folks living into their 90s or beyond.
Right. And that's a lot of years to plan for. It really puts the pressure on your retirement savings.
Exactly. You've got to think about how you're going to fund, 2 or 3 decades of retirement. And with the rising cost of living, especially with inflation creeping up, it's become even more urgent to have a solid plan in place for monthly income.
Yeah, and inflation can really eat away at your savings, can it?
It can. Absolutely. I was talking to a client recently. Let's call him Tom. He's in his early 60s and has been planning to retire in a couple of years. He's worried that his current savings won't stretch far enough because, the cost of everyday items has gone up so much.
I can imagine that's a tough spot to be in.
It is, and that's why we're seeing more retirees focusing on creating income streams that can at least keep pace with inflation. Things like annuities or dividend-paying stocks.
Those can be great options, but they can also feel complicated.
They can, but that's why it's important to have a strategy that fits your personal situation. Another aspect that's really pressing right now is market volatility. With the stock market going up and down so much lately, people are understandably anxious about their investments.
Yeah, it feels like every week we hear about some new crisis that's affecting the market.
Exactly. You wouldn't want to rely solely on your investments for income during a bear market. I had a couple, let's call them Linda and Mike, who had to adjust their plans when the market took a dive last year. They were planning to draw from their investment accounts, but they realized they'd be selling shares at a loss.
That must have been stressful for them.
It was, and it made them rethink their entire strategy. They ended up exploring other income sources that wouldn't be as impacted by market fluctuations, like rental income or even starting a small side business.
That's a clever way to pivot.
It is, and, on top of that, we also have to consider tax efficiency. With changes in tax laws and potential increases in tax rates, it's essential to have a plan that minimizes your tax burden during retirement.
That can be a real game changer, can it?
Absolutely. I spoke with a retiree, let's call her Susan, who hadn't really thought about how taxes would affect her withdrawals from retirement accounts. She was surprised to find out how much of her income would be taxed, which, cut into her lifestyle plans.
So planning for taxes is just as important as planning for income.
Yes, and it's also about understanding Social Security changes. Many people don't realize that the rules around Social Security can change as they approach retirement.
That's a good point. It seems like a lot of people just take it at face value.
Right. They might not consider how their claiming strategy affects their monthly benefits. I had a client, let's call him John, who was thinking about claiming early, but after discussing it, he realized that waiting could significantly increase his monthly income.
That's such a common misconception.
It really is, and we can't overlook healthcare costs, which have been rising consistently. A lot of people underestimate how much they'll need for medical expenses in retirement.
Yeah, I've heard some pretty staggering numbers about that.
For sure. One couple I worked with, they were shocked to learn that their healthcare expenses could run into the hundreds of thousands over their retirement. They hadn't planned for that at all.
That's a wake-up call.
It really is. And that leads to legacy planning. Many retirees want to leave something behind for their loved ones, but if they haven't set up their income plan correctly, it can diminish their ability to do that.
So it's all intertwined, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The current economic trends, the emotional side of financial security, it all plays a part. I think many people underestimate how much peace of mind can come from having a solid income plan in retirement.
Definitely. It's not just about the numbers, is it?
Not at all. It's about feeling secure in your choices, knowing you can enjoy your retirement without the constant worry of finances.
So where do we go from here? What are some core strategies people can use to create that monthly income?
So Emily, when we talk about creating monthly income after retirement, one of the first things that comes to mind is the right mix of investments, right?
Absolutely, David. It's like assembling a puzzle. Every piece matters. So what would you say is a good starting point for someone looking to create that income?
Well, a common rule of thumb is the 4% rule. Basically, if you withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year, it's designed to last for about 30 years. So, for instance, if you have a $1 million portfolio, withdrawing $40,000 annually could be a sustainable strategy.
That sounds straightforward. But what if someone's more conservative? Or maybe they're worried about market fluctuations?
Good point. In that case, they might consider a more conservative withdrawal rate, like 3.5% or even 3%. It really depends on their risk tolerance and how long they expect to be in retirement.
Right, and then there's the issue of asset allocation. Can you break that down a bit for us?
Sure. Asset allocation is about balancing your investments among different asset classes, stocks, bonds, and cash equivalents. A typical conservative portfolio might look like 70% bonds and 30% stocks, while a more aggressive one could be the inverse.
So, if someone is leaning more towards that 70-30th split, what does that mean for their income?
With a 70-30th portfolio, you're likely to have more stability from the bonds, which can provide regular interest income while still having growth potential from the stocks. It's all about balancing growth and risk.
And what about tax-advantaged accounts? How do those play into this strategy?
Great question. Accounts like 401, KS, and IRAs offer tax benefits that can be significant. For example, with a traditional IRA, your withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income, but contributions are tax deductible. On the other hand, with a Roth IRA, you pay taxes up front, but withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
So if someone has both types of accounts, how should they strategize their withdrawals?
Ideally, they'd want to withdraw from the taxable accounts first to let the tax-advantaged accounts grow. Once those are depleted, they can start tapping into the tax-deferred accounts. This can help minimize their tax burden over time.
That's clear. And what about real estate? I know many retirees consider downsizing or renting out property for extra income.
Absolutely, real estate can be a great income source if you own a rental property that can provide a steady cash flow. Even selling a larger home and moving to a smaller one can free up some capital that can be invested elsewhere, generating even more income.
So, let's say someone sells their home for $500,000. What could they do with that money?
Well, they could invest it in a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds, or even purchase a smaller home and use the leftover cash to create a safe income stream, perhaps through bonds or dividend-paying stocks.
And what about annuities? I know they can be a bit complex.
Right, annuities can provide guaranteed income, which can be appealing. They're essentially contracts with insurance companies where you pay a lump sum up front, and they promise a certain payout over time. Just keep in mind they often come with fees and limitations, so it's essential to do your homework.
Got it. So with all these different options, how can someone optimize their Social Security benefits?
Timing is crucial. The longer you wait to claim Social Security, up until age 70, the larger your monthly benefit will be. If you start at 62, you could see a reduction of up to 30% compared to waiting until your full retirement age.
Wow, that can really add up. Would you recommend everyone to wait as long as possible?
Not necessarily. It really depends on individual circumstances, like health, life expectancy, and financial needs. Some might need the income right away, while others can afford to wait.
Okay, so let's talk about withdrawal strategies. You mentioned the bucket strategy earlier. How does that work?
The bucket strategy divides your assets into buckets based on when you'll need the money. For example, the first bucket could hold cash for the first few years of expenses, while the second bucket could be invested for income over the next 5 to 10 years, and the third bucket for long-term growth.
That makes a lot of sense. It kind of helps with peace of mind, knowing that you have your immediate expenses covered.
Exactly. It can really alleviate the stress of market fluctuations since your short-term needs are secured.
And I imagine diversification plays a big role here too, right?
Definitely. Diversification across different asset classes can help mitigate risks. If one sector underperforms, others might do well, balancing out the overall performance.
Okay, so if someone is ready to implement these strategies, what are some tax-saving techniques they should keep in mind?
Tax loss harvesting is one. It involves selling underperforming investments to offset taxes on gains. Also, being strategic about withdrawals from different accounts can help reduce taxable income.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider when planning for retirement income.
There really is. And as we've discussed, it's about finding what works for your situation. But let's not forget, there are common pitfalls that people can fall into when they try to navigate this on their own. So, Emily, one of the common pitfalls that we see often is called sequence of returns risk. It's kind of a fancy term, but it really just means that the order in which your investment returns come can significantly affect your retirement savings.
Right, I've heard about that. So, if you hit a market downturn right when you start withdrawing money, that can be really damaging, right?
Exactly. Let's say you retire and the market takes a dip right away. If you're pulling money out to live on, you're selling your investments at a loss. That can really hurt your portfolio's longevity.
That's pretty concerning. Do you have an example of someone who faced this issue?
Sure, I had a client, let's call him John. He retired in 2007, just before the financial crisis. He had a solid plan, but when the market crashed in 2008, he was forced to withdraw from his investments while they were down. It ended up depleting his savings much faster than he anticipated.
Wow, that sounds tough. So what could he have done differently?
Well, one strategy we discussed with him was to create a cash reserve, like a buffer, maybe enough to cover a couple of years of living expenses. That way, he wouldn't have to sell investments in a down market.
That makes a lot of sense. What about taxes? I've heard people often overlook the tax implications of their withdrawals.
Absolutely, Emily. Taxes can take a bite out of your retirement income if you're not careful. Many people don't realize that their withdrawals can push them into a higher tax bracket, especially if they're pulling from multiple sources like IRAs, 401ks, or even Social Security.
Can you give an example of how that plays out?
Sure. Let's say someone decides to withdraw a large sum from their traditional IRA to pay for a big expense, like a home renovation. They might think it's no big deal, but that withdrawal could increase their taxable income for the year. I've seen clients end up paying thousands more in taxes because they didn't plan for that.
Yikes. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. What's another common mistake?
Underestimating healthcare costs is a big one. Many retirees think Medicare will cover everything, but, that's not the case. There are premiums, co-pays, and out-of-pocket expenses that can really add up.
Right, and healthcare costs seem to be rising every year.
Exactly. I had a couple, let's say they're the Smiths. They thought they had enough set aside for healthcare, but they didn't account for the rising costs of prescription drugs and long-term care. When they faced an unexpected medical issue, they were caught off guard.
That must have been stressful for them. So what do you recommend to avoid that?
It's crucial to plan for healthcare expenses in retirement. I usually suggest that clients look into comprehensive long-term care insurance or even a health savings account while they're still working, if they can.
That's smart. What about asset allocation? Is that another area where people go wrong?
Yes, definitely. Many retirees become too conservative too quickly. They might think, I'm retired now, I need to preserve my capital. But then they end up missing out on potential growth from their investments.
Right, it's like they're playing it too safe.
Exactly. I had a client named Tom. He shifted almost all of his investments to bonds after retiring. While that felt safe, with low interest rates at the time, his portfolio wasn't keeping up with inflation. Over the years, he realized he wasn't growing his wealth at all.
That's a tough position to be in. So how do you find the right balance?
It's all about understanding your risk tolerance and having a diversified portfolio. A mix of stocks, bonds, and even some alternatives can help maintain growth while still managing risk.
That makes sense. And what about Social Security? I've heard people often claim it too early.
Yes, claiming Social Security too early can really impact lifetime benefits. If someone claims at 62 instead of waiting until full retirement age or even 70, they could lose out on a significant amount of money.
Do you have a story that illustrates that?
Absolutely. There was a woman, let's call her Mary. She was eager to retire and claimed Social Security at 62. She thought she'd have enough income, but when she reached 70, she realized she'd left a lot of money on the table. Had she waited, her monthly benefit would have increased by almost 30%.
Wow, that's a huge difference. So what should people consider when making that decision?
It really depends on their financial situation and life expectancy. I advise clients to weigh their health, other income sources, and even their plans for retirement. Sometimes, waiting can be worth it.
It sounds like there are so many things to keep in mind. Are there any red flags people should look for?
Definitely. If someone finds themselves constantly worried about money or feels like they're running out of options, those are big red flags. It's worth revisiting your plan, maybe even consulting with a financial advisor to ensure you're on the right track.
Yeah, it seems like being proactive can really make a difference.
For sure. The earlier you spot these potential pitfalls, the easier it is to avoid them. It's like a safety net for your retirement.
That's a great way to put it. So what are some next steps for listeners who might be feeling uncertain about their retirement planning?
First off, start by reviewing your current plan. Look at your income sources, expenses, and investment strategies. You might want to consider working with a financial planner to get a fresh perspective and ensure you're prepared for the long haul.
Absolutely. Taking those steps can really help give people peace of mind as they head into retirement.
Exactly. And remember, it's never too late to adjust your plan. Small changes can have a big impact on your financial future.
That's such an encouraging thought.
All right, so let's dive into some actionable steps that folks can take right now to start creating that monthly income in retirement without having to jump back into a job, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, a great first step is to assess your current financial situation. You can start by checking out some retirement calculators. Websites like Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab have really user-friendly tools that can help you project your income needs and see how your assets stack up.
Oh, that sounds super helpful. And those calculators can give you a clearer picture of what you might need to save or adjust, right?
Exactly. They can also highlight any gaps in your plan. And speaking of gaps, if you haven't already, it's a good idea to create a budget for your retirement expenses. Laying out your fixed costs versus discretionary spending can really illuminate where your income will need to come from.
Right, and I think it's also important to factor in things like healthcare costs, which can be a big surprise for many retirees.
Absolutely. And while you're at it, don't forget to check out Social Security options. The Social Security Administration's website, ssa.gov, is a treasure trove of information. You can get estimates of your benefits and learn about the best times to claim.
Oh yes, that's critical. And for those who might be overwhelmed, they also have resources that can guide you through the process.
For sure. Another step is to look into your investment strategy. A lot of folks may not realize that their portfolios need to be adjusted as they transition into retirement.
Right. It's not just about accumulating wealth anymore. It's really about protecting what you've built and generating income from it.
Exactly. So a good habit to start is to review your portfolio quarterly. Look at how your investments are performing and make sure they align with your retirement goals.
And if someone feels unsure about how to do that, maybe they could consider working with a financial advisor, even just for a one-time consultation.
Absolutely. A financial advisor can provide personalized guidance and help you create a comprehensive plan. But if you want to take the DIY route, there are plenty of financial planning apps out there, like Personal Capital or Mint, that can help you keep track of your finances.
Those apps can be super useful. They really simplify things. And speaking of simplification, taking a look at your tax situation and understanding how your withdrawals might affect your tax bracket is also important.
Yes, utilizing tax software can help you run projections and see how different withdrawal strategies might impact your overall tax liability. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're not overpaying.
And if anyone is looking to expand their knowledge, there are some fantastic books and podcasts out there on retirement planning.
Oh, definitely. A couple of great books are The Boglehead's Guide to Retirement Planning and How Much Can I Spend in Retirement? Those can really offer valuable insights. And for podcasts, I'd recommend Retirement Answer Man and The Mad Scientist. Both have tons of actionable advice.
Those are solid recommendations. It's amazing how much information is out there. And I think for a lot of people, just starting to consume that content can spark motivation to take action.
For sure. And remember, it's never too late to improve your plan. Even small changes can make a big difference over time. So, if you haven't run those retirement projections yet, now's the time.
Yes, and starting small can be key. Just setting aside a bit of time each month to review your financial situation can lead to huge improvements down the line.
Exactly. And don't hesitate to reach out to family or friends who may have gone through this process. Sometimes sharing experiences can provide new perspectives and ideas.
Definitely. It's like building your own little support network around retirement planning.
So those are some practical first steps. Now let's bring this all together. Well, as we wrap up today's discussion, I think it's important to highlight some key takeaways.
Absolutely, David. One of the big points we touched on was the importance of diversifying income sources, right?
Exactly. Having a mix of income streams like Social Security, pensions, and investments can really help provide that financial stability.
And we also talked about the significance of understanding your expenses. Knowing how much you need each month can help you plan effectively.
Yes, and let's not forget about the role of an emergency fund. A solid reserve can really protect you from unexpected expenses, which is crucial during retirement.
That's so true. And investing wisely, it's all about finding that balance between growth and safety.
Right, it's essential to ensure your money lasts as long as you do. Building and protecting your retirement wealth is key to enjoying those golden years.
So, if you found value in today's episode, we'd love for you to like and subscribe. And don't forget to comment with your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have.
Yes, and if you know someone who's planning for retirement or already in it, share this episode with them. It could really make a difference.
And next time, we'll dive into the best investment portfolio allocation for retirement.
That's going to be an exciting discussion.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today.
We appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Until next time, take care and keep building that retirement wealth.
Goodbye.
Bye.